One of the biggest missed opportunities for lawyers when they make presentations is holding Q&A at the very end of the presentation. Now, it might seem natural to do that, but just like a meeting you would have with a client where you sit down and you discuss an issue or you bring up a particular matter, your client will ask you in real time about the things you're discussing. They'll want to know, oh, can I push back on that? Or they want to bring up a particular matter. Fantastic. You can replicate that in every presentation if you set up your presentation correctly. So in this video, we're going to show you how to add Q&A throughout your presentation so that it will feel natural and help your audience get more out of what you're discussing. So the first thing you need to do is to set expectations. Most of the time your audience is expecting Q&A at the end, fine, but you want to let them know, signal ahead of time, hey ladies and gentlemen, I would like this to be a conversation. I will be doing most of the talking, but I want your input and I'd love to have it in real time throughout the presentation. So let's say you have 4 main points that you want to make in your presentation. After point number 1, I recommend that you stop, pause, and say, ladies and gentlemen, what questions do you have about section 1? And then pause for a moment, let them think it through, and believe it or not, usually questions will come forward. What's important about saying, I want questions related to or about section number 1 is that you prevent the off-topic situation, the person bringing an idea from far afield that no one really cares about. So it's very important to say, what questions do you have? And then say, about this section or about the material I just covered. Then proceed to section number 2 and cover that material. Pause and say, before we move on, what questions do you have, audience members, about section 2 or even section 1? So again, harken back to where they've been. There's a great reason why there's a live presenter in front of a live audience, and that's to have interaction and conversation back and forth. Now, naturally, you might say, how am I supposed to manage my time? Great question. I would say just take the 10 or 15 minutes you would have used for Q&A and just apportion them across your timeline. And then also make sure you don't let people pontificate. Don't let them go on too long. So tell them even up front, I'd like you to have questions throughout the presentations. Can you please make them brief? Because I want to make sure we get through all our material. I want to make sure that we get out of this session what we need to. And so if someone does happen to go on too long, or they're a little long-winded, you're allowed to interrupt them and say, let me kind of take what you've just said and answer that, even if they didn't really officially ask a question. Or if you want them to get to a question, you can interrupt them and say, now, if we could, in the interest of time, have you zero in on the most important part. What's the most salient aspect of your question? And ask that, I'm happy to answer it. And then go on from there. So if you can add Q&A to your presentation versus waiting till the end, you'll create more of a conversation with your audience, more of a natural dialogue. They will get more out of your presentation and you'll be a lot more successful.